welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Katie from the Cledara Customer Success team. I'm your host today, and I'm really excited for this one. We're talking about growth. Every company wants to grow, right? But it comes with a unique set of challenges, and we're going to be diving into this topic and really looking at what it means for the finance teams, right? And our guest today knows all about the highs and lows of scaling fast. We're really excited to welcome VP Singh with us today. He's the COO of VerbaFlo. It's a conversational AI platform that really has exploded from 9 to 39 employees in the last 3 months. And this isn't VP's first rodeo. This is his 5th startup to date. So I can't wait to get into this conversation and hear his insights on managing such a rapid growth. So VP, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you, Katie. Thank you for having me. Real pleasure to be here, and I love to answer some of the questions that you would have. And
fantastic. And also I have here today with me our very own Luke Stegel. So Luke is a member of the team here. He's been with Cledara really from the early days and has witnessed our own kind of growth journey. So hi, Luke, how are you today?
Very good. Yeah, thoroughly looking forward to it, as VP said, and looking forward to answering some of the questions that everyone has.
Fantastic. So I've invited Luke here today. He's going to be talking us through something very special towards the end of the webinar. Here at Cledara, we have launched Cledara Spend. It's physical cards for employee spending, and Luke will be showing or talking us through this new feature. So before I kick us off and we dive into the conversation, really would love to hear from you, our audience. So there's a couple of ways you can chat with us and interact with us. So there's the chat. So if you've got any comments, you want to throw something into the ring, please use that, or the Q&A as well. So you can submit a question, and we will be making sure we leave at least 5-10 minutes to the end of this webinar to take on your questions and just hear your own feedback. Really interested to hear that. So let's get into it. So VP, if we take a step back, as we said, like many people want to be in that position, right, of growing from 9 to 39, you know, that exciting period. Can we take a step back and you kind of just talk us through that journey?
sure. So the idea of VerbaFlo was conceptualized by my partner Singh, who is the CEO, and Ashish, who is our Chief AI Officer. So these two guys were building two separate companies, both in the AI space. One was in the HR space, other one in the PropTech space. Singh is a non-tech guy, Ashish is a tech guy, and through a common connection, they came together, and that's how VerbaFlo came out, right? The basic idea when VerbaFlo was started was to basically automate the communication that happens in the real estate. It can be across different modalities. Modality is a very common word in the AI space, which means basically all the communication platforms like voice, emails, WhatsApp, web chat, WeChat, anything. So what they wanted to do was to automate everything so that we can save on human capital as well as increase the efficiency through the automation, right? That was the basic idea. We started, I mean, the idea, if I remember correctly, the idea was like, we were in very, very early stages in September. Then in October, Singh reached out, then I joined, and then we obviously started hiring the team, as well as obviously raised our funds so that we can even hire more people, because it's all about having good AI talent in the team who can develop the product, right? This was the journey. We were able to raise some funds in the month of November, and then that actually sort of gave us a big runway, which means we were able to now scale very rapidly. We already had, like, even when we started at that time, we already had 5 clients in the pipeline without having a single product, just on the basis of a demo, because demo was so powerful, people were really impressed what it could do, right? Now, the thing was to basically have that demo actually deployed across different clients, and not just a demo, it becomes actually a functional product. So with that idea, we started developing the product in November. We launched with our first client in January, And then after that, it has been sort of a rocket for us, right? So right now, our whole pipeline is about, I think, 42, but we cannot cater to them because still the AI talent is limited. We have to hire them. We have to, sometimes when we are not able to hire people directly because the salaries are also quite expensive. So what we do is we hire people who are just freshly graduating in computer science, and then we train them for a period of about a month or so. And then those people start basically working at the lower level architecture in the backend, and then obviously we keep on promoting them. So that strategy has really worked for us. We even have a few interns who joined us, but then they converted into full-time roles, and now they are doing really good, literally within 3 or 4 months. So
Wow,
that has been the journey. I am more than happy to go into the further details of any particular aspect if you want to know.
yeah, totally. Just picking up on that last piece about like, you know, you've got that funding, you know, you want to grow the headcount and deciding where to invest. What I'm hearing is that it's gone into engineering and product, right? Is that a good assessment?
It is because for us right now, we don't have any operations team, we don't have any sales team, we don't have any marketing team, we don't have any HR team, right? The whole business is all about the product team right now, right? I mean, obviously, when we were speaking earlier, it was 39, now we are 42. Out of 42, 80% of the people are pure tech. Then we have got QA team, which basically tests the AI product. And then we have got basically the founding team members, which includes me, Santhan, and a couple of other co-founders, right? So we take care of everything on the business side of things. Rest everything on the product, obviously, is being managed by the product team. So like there is no big organization structure. It's very, very lean in terms of there are two tech co-founders. One of them manages the backend, one other manages the AI, rest everything on the business side we take care of, right? So we don't ask them to take care of anything on the business end because then it would hamper the growth or the growth of the product, which is the sort of fundamental for the whole business.
Understood.
And
There's a real
how,
division of labor.
and to
Sorry,
ask, like I said, when you've kind of built the product, you know you've got a strong product, you know you need to hire in essentially a difficult space in potentially one of the most competitive markets to hire in right now. When you're at that founding team and you know we want to go and grow this quickly, what was the first thing you did to start hiring? Was it yourself going through referrals and people you've worked with before? Was it going out to agencies and recruitment? Like, what was the first step you took to this hiring?
Exactly, referrals. That was the way for us to make sure the people who join the founding team are the people with whom either we have worked in the past, we know them, or at least we have got really good referrals on them, right? So that's how actually I came into picture. When Santhan and Ashish had already like started working on it, Santhan knew me because he was my co-founder in one of the previous company, which was acquired in 2017. So he reached out to me, and then I said, "Wow, this looks really good." So then I joined. Similarly, Abhishek joined because Abhishek used to work with Ashish, and we all four of us, we come from the same college in India. So that was another connection. That's how we knew each other, right? And that was very, very important for us that we, as a founding team, we know each other, because the dynamics between the founding team members have to be really good to make sure it works. And that, I mean, we are touchwood, we have been very, very lucky in that sense. And we have got like really good, clear demarcation of the work that everyone does. So there is never a challenge on that aspect.
And kind of going into that, you know, that clear roles that you have there. So as the COO, I know it's very common at early stage that COO is a bit of a catch-all. You wear lots of different hats, right? So I know the finance function kind of tends to fall under your kind of remit. So kind of looking at that lens, what was the biggest challenge there?
I would put my CEO role as an admin of the company right now. That's what I do. I do everything that comes, right? So that it doesn't go to anyone else, because then it would block their bandwidth, which we don't want, right? So as part of my role, I mean, there are some key aspects that I manage, and then there are some things which are completely unforeseen, which we were not aware of when we started the organization, but then it keeps on coming, some new challenges, and then we have to take them up, right? So for now, like in my role, my main job is to make sure that all the clients are onboarded onto the product. the product testing is done, so that team also sit under me. Then we have the finance team that sits under me, and then we have got HR. I mean, it's not a team. When I say team, it means that it would either be just me or maybe one person supporting me, right? But these are the different functions that how we have defined them. So all of them merged together comes to me basically, and that's what I do.
And when it comes to the finance function, what has that growth? What's the biggest challenge that growth has kind of put the pressure on in finance?
Yeah. So if we take a step back and go to like the period of October when we had literally started, at that time, there was no one in the finance team. Even I don't come from a finance background, right? I have studied finance, but I never practiced it, right? And then I ventured into operations. But there was no one else in the organization who would be able to pick that function. So I just volunteered to basically pick it up. Over a period of time, I mean, within the first month, we started facing challenges with like all the payments. People were using at that time, we didn't have any SOPs, right? And we were having a lot of interns at that time working with us, not the full-time people, because then you would have to pay a lot of salaries. While interns were like very, very economical for us to work with, and they were getting really good stage to work on the AI products. So, but these people, I mean, and considering there were no SOPs in place right at that time for the finance team, so they would just randomly start taking different subscriptions of all the AI tools that we were using on the backend. And everyone would be either they would be paying through some friend's card, some parent's card, or then they would say that, okay, can you please reimburse me? So it was a nightmare to manage all these things at that time in the month of October and November. And then we started exploring whether if we can do like automate it. And then we came across Cledara, and we came across a few other products. We obviously did demo for with all of them, and then finally that's how we chose Cledara.
We didn't pay VP to say that, everyone. I promise.
No, I actually love Cledara, and that's why I'm doing this. To be honest, we are very busy right now. Also, I'm sitting in our investors office. We had got a lot of things to do here, but I thought I would love to do it for Cledara. I mean.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing is that one of the first things to kind of break down when you have that growth is those costs, right? So there's lots of different pieces of finance, right? You've got your receivables, you've got things going out, but what I'm hearing is that just people being able to buy anything became very uncontrollable, whether it was software or something else.
Yeah, and that was also because of I mean, we didn't have any SOPs in place at that time. And we were not sure exactly how to manage it. So we were just like trying to figure out whether it should be just one card, which we can give to everyone and people can start using it everywhere. But then how would we get the invoices, right? So there was a lot of different things that we were trying to figure out. Now, when I look at 3 months back, I was like, wow, that was a very small problem. Now we've got much bigger problems to deal with. But at that time, it was a big problem for us, right? So as you keep on scaling, and then obviously the next set of challenges that comes always looks bigger to you than what you have already faced in the past.
Yeah, so if you went those 3 months back, and maybe for some of the people in the audience and watching this who are kind of at that stage, is there any advice you'd say, don't do this, or perhaps definitely do this?
One advice I can give to everyone is that don't try to decentralize the finance function at the start. Even if you have to, maybe one person needs to do the admin work, and you feel that, no, as a founding team member or as a company CXO, I don't want to spend my time doing these manual admin things while I would spend my time on doing something else. If your financial condition permits to hire some accountant, probably have them. If you can hire an agency to do that, maybe do that, but make sure that it is in place from the beginning itself, right? And trust me, I have seen this across one of the previous companies back then when I was very young. Started this company in 2015. We raised our first round after 6 months, and during the due diligence process, it was a nightmare for us to literally figure out what was happening. And that's why this was one of the most important thing for me to sort within the first month of like proper launch for us, right? Back in 2015, then there was not any such tools which we can rely on. So we used to literally use Google spreadsheets to make all those list of items that, okay, these are the links, and then save the invoice on Google Drive and link it back to that spreadsheet. And it was like a nightmare to do that. Now we have got pretty good tools like Cledara. So But it's just one part of the finance, but I think it's very important. Because at the beginning, you won't have a lot of invoices to process or things like that, right? So these are the small things that would become the core of your finance. And then over a period of time, obviously, then you start processing the payrolls and a lot of other stuff.
So what I'm hearing is like setting some processes early are going to help you. It's like, think about it now so you don't have to manage and deal with it later. If you can get a good process in. And we spoke about this. So, I've worked with the VP to onboard Cledara. So we were talking about like how you've implemented it and a bit of a rod of iron, right? But what advice would you give? I mean, Cledara, or any process that you want to put in place to kind of help you scale, what's your kind of advice for people to kind of get it instilled in the company culture early?
So there are two ways of doing it, right? One is you be like pushing it very gently so that people start adopting it, right? And sometimes some tools are really good. People would actually fall for it and then they will start using it, right? For example, if someone is using some archaic internal messaging tool, and then if you introduce them to Slack, they would love it because it's so good. I know some people might not like Slack, but the general consensus is it was a game-changing tool when it was launched back like a few years back. Now, same thing, I would say can be used by the companies, but I personally don't believe in that. What I think is that if you have to launch something, you have to make like a stringent rule. This is the time when I'm going to cut it off everything, and then you have to rely on this. That is another way of doing things, which that's how I would do it, because then it makes sure that everyone, if you have, whether you have 10 people or 50 people or 200 people, everyone would have to start following up that process, right? This is what we did. We literally, the cards that we were using and that we had given earlier to the people, once they started moving from their personal cards to our Wise card, but that was still a problem. Then we cut that off literally, and then we onboarded everyone on Cledara. We made some POCs who would be responsible for managing all the softwares. There were about, I think, 52, 53 different ones. Everything then moved on to Cledara, and then that's how we sorted that particular problem. And we follow this strategy across other things also, right? For example, initially for managing the login credentials. Now we are an AI company. Security is paramount to us. There is a lot of confidential client data that we get, which is like proprietary data belonging to a client. We cannot have it sitting in the spreadsheets and then just sharing those files with everyone, right? So we started using like a tool like 1Password, and there are some other tools that we use in the organization on the back end also. So all these things like started coming into picture because we understood the requirement that we have to go through this route. It costs us, but the benefit that we see are much more in comparison to the cost. So
yeah, makes sense. And so I'm hearing, obviously an AI company, software company, software, I think everyone on the call here is probably their biggest expense after payroll for some people. Maybe it's the biggest expense actually right now. So how have you approached that then? And how do you kind of find that balance between allowing people to sign up and try all these tools, try and figure out what's best for them, but making sure there's some control there and being able to, show, some kind of cost control to perhaps your investors?
yeah. So what we have done is we have got 5 POCs in the company who are responsible for managing everything, right? Rather than giving access to all the 40 people in the organization to manage everything, whatever they want to do. We just have 5 people. These 5 people will take, and these 5 people come from all the different departments, right? One from AI, one from the back end, front end, so that if they want to use any tool, they would just go into Cledara as an admin, set up the card and use that card. The billing comes, the invoice comes to their email. Automatically, Cledara is able to pick that invoice, done. No one has to manually log in into the platforms or just ask other people to send the invoices. So that problem is sorted there, right? So obviously there are few platforms like OpenAI where you have to log in and still download it, but it still sits with one person rather than that person has to chase 5 other people to get that done. So this is what we have put in place. Specific to, I mean, this question is very specific to Cledara. So this is how we are managing our spend right now on the platform itself.
And I think we were talking earlier a few weeks back about kind of, you mentioned ChatGPT, OpenAI being kind of a very unique case. I think a lot of people have experienced that. We saw here in Cledara, I think it was 18 months ago, suddenly the number of subscriptions for ChatGPT that were added to the platform just skyrocketed. But it has its own unique problem, right? Of like people signing up, and then you kind of spoke about that a bit a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, OpenAI in itself, I mean, has a very, very weird system, which is basically if you buy the normal plan, then it costs you £20. But if you go on a team plan, then it charges you £30. But because they are offering you the team billing, and there are so many things, but I mean, I think it's how they also want to make money, and they know that everyone would want to, every big organization is going to take the team plan because that make more sense for them. So
yeah. And just changing tack slightly, VP. So we ran a survey recently about, we asked kind of CFOs and heads of finance if for them software is an expense or an investment. What's your answer to that?
it's a tricky one. I mean, how I see it in our organization is some of them are expense and some of them are investment, right? Now, when I can take some examples so that everyone on this webinar can understand where I'm coming from, right? So when I say expense, that is sort of a mandatory expense where we are replacing maybe some human or some manual SOP and then putting some software against it, right? So that would be more of a like to like system, but just that since you wanted to save on some manual process, you are just putting a software and the cost is not changing much, right? Or it might be small additional cost that you are, but then you are also saving some effort also, right? That would be sort of, I would consider as an investment, but then a proper spend. But then in terms of investment, for example, in our case now, again, let me not take example of Cledara because then everyone would feel like this is being sponsored by Cledara, which it is not. So let me go to some other tool which I can take example of. So for example, right now, we use a lot of tools on the AI side. I'm not sure if everyone would be aware of, right? So for example, Cursor for writing the code, and then a lot of APIs from different platforms like Anthropic and then OpenAI. We are also experimenting with DeepSeek now. Google's Gemini is also there, right? And there are a lot of other tools on the backend. So most of these tools are sort of an investment for us, though they are expensive at times for us. But the kind of value that we are able to drive from them, it is huge in comparison to the cost that we are bearing for them, right? And over being an AI company, our whole business is running on that architecture. I mean, they are the basically LLMs on which we are building our application layer on top of it, right? So that sort of becomes an investment for us, and that's why we spend a lot of time fine-tuning these models to make sure that we start using and leveraging them. Also, we have now started working with the open source LLMs to further fine-tune and make sure that we can reduce our cost on those side of things.
And if we think about, there's the AI to run the company and stuff, and then there's the AI that's going to help us do our jobs. And in finance, how is AI influencing that? Or what would you hope to see the future? What could kind of finance people take away as kind of, this is a tool that can really help? Or what would you like to see in the future AI do there in that space?
Yeah. So this was also a question I asked when we were hiring our associate director of finance, literally 2 weeks back. Now she's part of the organization, right? So I mean, and this is the question that I asked everyone whom we interviewed for that finance role. We interviewed about 10 different candidates. But people knew that, okay, I'm going to use ChatGPT to do this. I'll write SOP, do that. That's not what I wanted to hear. I know that everyone can do that. Now you can just go to ChatGPT and write a couple of sentences and it would generate an SOP for you. This is not what we need, right? We want to know what was the practical application of AI that you can have in the finance team, right? Because being an AI company, our whole business runs on it, right? Like a lot of things that we do are automated right now. In fact, our testing, one part of our testing that we do is also automated. So basically, we'll make a call on the backend where a bot would call another bot, which is deployed on a client website, and the bot would speak to the bot just to make sure that we are able to speed up the testing process, right? So those kind of things are being done on the backend. We want to make sure that this is replicated across the organization and not just on the tech side, right? So for example, some of the things in our QA, right? So our QA, a lot of things are automated. QA is basically the quality audit of the product that we do. Once the development team has built the product, then obviously we have to do a quality testing to make sure that AI is not hallucinating, or it's not just assuming something, or it is taking the right context in which the prompt has been given to it, right? So all of these things we have tried to automate a lot. And there are a lot of other tools coming in, which we keep on trying, and we try to figure out how do we further optimize it, because we don't want to keep on hiring like tens and tens of QA every time we launch we launch new clients, right? So we have to keep that in balance. And thankfully, we have been able to do that. With the team of 6, we have been able to scale from 5 to about 20 clients already without having to add more. And hopefully we would be able to do that. I won't be able to explain how we do that, because that's something the confidential information, but just
The
to give you
secret
an idea
sauce.
what we do.
Perfect. I'm aware of time. This has been great. I know I want to hand over to Luke in a moment. Just kind of one final one again for kind of our finance people on the call. Is there any advice final piece of advice you'd like to give them when it comes to like expenses and spend and how to manage that as you're growing?
One thing I already mentioned, try to centralize the finance function from the beginning. At later stages, when you have become a big company, you have got many people, you are spread across multiple geographies, probably you will be able to decentralize it depending on what your situation is and how your company is doing. Based on like what I've typically worked in the companies which are anywhere between 10 to 100 people in about 11 years of my career. And the centralized finance function actually works better than decentralized one. That's what I have figured out. So that would be one advice if anyone wants to take it. Second would be try to automate. How would you do that? That's completely you would have to figure out. But I mean, in our cases, I have given you a few examples what we do. I mean, one example was obviously Cledara, where we have saved a lot of money. So we had to hire literally 2 accountants in India just to do the invoicing before we started using Cledara. And now we don't have those people doing the manual stuff, right? So we saved a lot of money, and now the money that we spend on Cledara is very, very less in comparison to the salaries that we were paying them. But that's just one part of it. There are a lot of other things that we do in the organization, especially on the tech side as well as the QA side, where we are able to automate, and same things probably you will be able to replicate across finance. We are now trying to figure out like how can we automate even more from here on. But I think we are in very early stages right now with our finance function to say something or comment on that.
Amazing. I can see some really great questions have come in, so I do want to make sure we touch on those. But before I do, Luke, do you want to walk us through Cledara Spend? And we've talked a bit with VP about kind of, the finance function, managing the software, managing spend and their growth. So we're excited to kind of talk through this new feature.
Yeah, 100%. I think like we want to touch upon on this is just to explain almost why we have done something we've almost sworn we would never do, and kind of give people the insights of what's driven this essentially new product release for us. So for those who maybe have no idea what Cledara is on this webinar, we are a software management tool that's built for finance teams, to help consolidate all of your software spend into one place. So like VP said, to automate a lot of the financial admin, but also allow you to forecast better and not overspend on software. What we've found over the past 4 or 5 years is our customers' second largest expense is software. That can be anywhere for our smallest customers, it can be $10,000-$15,000 a month, all the way up to $200,000-$300,000 a month in some instances. They need more insight into their software because software is tricky. Subscription costs change. I think 60% of SaaS companies worldwide last year did a price increase. So it's ever changing. And as VP mentioned, a lot of people before Cledara have that in a spreadsheet and they are very much trying to track it. But VP sits down and does his spreadsheet at 9 o'clock in the morning, by 902, this company's changed the licenses agreement, or they've added a new tool here, and it changes so often. So what a lot of our customers were doing is managing all of their software spend through Cledara, but of course they still need, you know, to buy a coffee in the morning as a founder, or book somebody's travel for an event, take a card with them to go to a SaaS event, whatever it may be. And we've kind of been nagged, is the way I'll put it, but that's being harsh. We've been asked a lot by our customers that, you know, I pay for a spend management tool, but we only spend a handful of thousands, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 a month through this, and we spend, you know, 80,000 a month on our software through Cledara. Why can't we just put that 5,000 in Cledara as well, and you give me some physical cards? Now, what Cledara doesn't want to be, and what we've been very silent on, is being the #1 SaaS management tool for finance. And what we don't want to do is become that, you know, good at a lot of things, but not great at one thing. We want to be great at the part we are great at. These asks of our customers has continued over the years and got bigger and bigger and bigger as our customer base has also got bigger. So, you know, from our founding team, we decided to look into how difficult is it actually to do, considering we've already got a payments infrastructure, to essentially just create an app and create some bits of plastic. And it was extremely straightforward for us to do. So we've almost given in that essence, because we also agree, you know, if software is such a crucial part of my business and I need to manage the spend effectively, it's a lot easier to manage the teas, coffees, taxes. And I don't want to be paying, you know, $800 to $1,000 a month to a provider who only helps me with that small part of my spend and doesn't give me enough with the software. So what we've allowed our customers to do now is combine those two within Cledara. We don't believe the spend management piece should be expensive in any way, shape, or form. At the end of the day, it is a piece of plastic that you are buying some stuff with, taking a picture of a receipt, and allowing that to automate your financial admin. So for us as a business, we are still the #1 SaaS management tool. That is still our vision and how we want to support our finance teams. But this is just a way to almost give back and say, you don't need to spend $1,000 a month on this provider to give you 5 to 6 cards. You can have them essentially on us, and we'll still continue to manage your software. So yes, we did our internal release to our customer base. Within the first week, I think we had over 25% using the tool. That was without any pushing on them. It was very much like, here it is, you asked. And we've seen that number continuously grow up week on week now as well. So really exciting offering for us to help companies bring it all under one roof, but without the need of breaking the bank as well.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to launch a quick poll. If anybody would like to book a call with a member of the team to talk any more about Cledara Spend and physical cards for employee spend, then just feel free to let us know, and make sure that after this we reach out and schedule some time with you. And while I leave that running, I want to get to the questions, because we've had 2 really good ones come in, and one of them talks a bit about the hire, VP. And I know actually you just recently, you alluded to bringing someone full-time in finance. So that's a good question. I think follow-up I'll ask about when to bring that on. But somebody's asked, when was the first hire, what was the first hire you made to support you when the workload of finance and administration became too much to handle on your own?
Yeah. So our first hire was literally a couple of weeks back, as I mentioned. Before that, we had 2 part-time accountants, both based in India. But they were part-time, and then obviously once we had our invoices sorted, so we didn't need them. The full-time, why we felt it, because we work across 2 geographies. One is we are a UK incorporated company, but then we have got huge operations in India, right? Because our backend team is sitting there. So, and then there are a lot of regulations that we have to meet in terms of the tax regimes in both the countries, and like VAT in UK, but there is the GST in India and a lot of other things, right? So we had to spend a lot of time on figuring out all these things, and then speaking to the law firms in UK and in India, and then getting tax advisors in both the countries, and a lot of other stuff, right? Especially after raising the funds, then you had to like plan it very well so that you don't face any challenges when you go for the next round fundings or things like that. Also, it's a good corporate governance also. If you want to make sure that you are doing everything right so that you don't get flagged by HMRC or anything else later on. So to make sure that we are doing everything, we started this hiring process about a month back, and within a couple of weeks we got a candidate who was able to join us immediately. So that was sort of the trigger point for us to figure out that now this is getting too much, because I was not able to handle everything on my own, because I had to go for the client meetings, and then things would just keep on sitting for 3-4 days, and then I would come back and respond. And by that time, the other stakeholders who are involved in that, maybe the law firm, they would take their own sweet time to respond back to me. So it was not a very good process. So that's how we figured out that, okay, now let's bring someone in.
And I've got a follow-up question really on that, VP. A few weeks ago, we had a webinar with Colin Hewitt, who's the CEO of Float, which is cash flow kind of projection software. And he kind of shared that traditionally it had been kind of scale-ups and SMBs who had been primarily looking, really wanting to be strategic when it comes to cash flow, and startups traditionally have been like, well, the money's there, fantastic, kind of great to just kind of start spending. But really in the last year or so with the kind of VC winter, that's a strategic person in finance has had to come on a lot earlier. Would you agree with that? Have you seen that yourself?
So the way I am right now as a person, right? I believe cash flows are really, really critical, whether you are a startup or a very, very big firm. It's always important. Even if you are not making a single penny in revenue, you still want to have a very good overview of how much cost is going and where it is going right now, right? So for example, right now, I know that I have about 68% of my cost into going into the manpower, right? The salaries, then some in some other aspects, right? So we always wanted to be like that. And as of now, we are, though when about a month back, when we figured out that I am not on top of these things, that was also one of the trigger point where I would, okay, if I'm not able to have that overview and I cannot go into everything and check it, let's go and probably hire someone who would be able to give us that, right? So it should not be very tricky to do that. Plus, obviously, the other things that I mentioned earlier, all of these coming together was what made us hire. What made the possibility of hiring of this person in the team. So
totally understood. And another question that just came in kind of on the same kind of track was, someone said that you mentioned that you knew that kind of the founding team kind of very well, but as kind of you brought new people in and the team grew, how did you make sure money was spent in the right place?
One thing which we were very clear from the beginning, right? We don't want to hire people who are asking like huge salaries, even if they were coming from really, really good companies, because if the money is the only motivation, then probably they will get some a good salary from maybe the likes of some big companies, maybe OpenAI sometime opening their office in India, or Anthropic. We won't be able to hold them back, right? So what we have done is we have a very good ESOP structure, which means if the company grows, you also grow with the company. That's one thing. Plus, there is a lot of autonomy that has been given to most of the team members who have been part of the company for about, let's say, 2 months or so, right? So they are able to do their work. So that's why we haven't had any attrition at all till now. It's a very, very short span of 4 months or so. So I won't say it would be a very right metric to track, but we are happy that the way the team is working right now, it's very productive. Everyone is happy. We haven't had any such issue where we had to literally think about, oh, our team is getting pressurized, or they are not feeling good, or someone raised this. We never had that, at least in last 4 months. And I don't think so we would be seeing that anytime soon. Obviously, once we grow and become a company with maybe about 100, 200 people, then we might have to think through how we want to manage that. For now, it's all good.
Fantastic. There is one other question, and I'm going to ask that person if they can maybe message us in the chat, because I think it's about Cledara. It's about granting management rights in Cledara to the team lead so they can manage licenses directly or delegate this out. I'm not quite sure if that's for VP or for us, but yes, just to clarify, in Cledara, it is possible to set up your teams and have a team manager, and that person can approve new licenses for things that are coming in for their team. So if that's what you meant, I hope I've answered your question, but if not, please feel free to clarify. You can use the chat to send me a direct message, and I'm more than happy to follow up with you on that. So they're all our questions, VP. Thank you so much for joining us today. That has been a really, really interesting conversation. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to speak for us live from your investors office, which we'll be watching very closely, VerbaFlo, as you grow. And if anybody's interested, I'm sure they can find you kind of on LinkedIn. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
Perfect. And same here. If you got any questions for myself or Luke, please reach out to success@cledara.com. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions. And thank you to Luke as well for walking us through Cledara Spend. We're really excited about that.
No problem. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you, VP. It was really insightful.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Well, have a great rest of the day, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us. Take care. See you
Cheers.
next time. Bye.